does humanity go from here? What have we tried to do? What if there is more, much more? The Keshe Foundation is proud to announce a new way to bring humanity forward through technology that brings humanity in line with the natural operation of the planet and universe itself. The new science and technology discovered and developed by the nuclear engineer Moran Keshe centers upon the use and control of magnetical gravitational fields. This new body of knowledge opens the road to hundreds of potential applications, which offer solutions to most of the fundamental problems of the world, such as water, food, environmental contamination, and shortages of energy. The Keshe Foundation is proud to unveil the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. Nestled amidst the beautiful shores of Bari, Italy, the Institute is poised to become a central hub in the spreading of plasma technology and knowledge. With its state-of-the-art 21st century facilities, the Institute will be able to provide students and staff an immersive way to learn the plasma technology, to be the leaders of the new generation of scientists and plasma engineers. The Keshe Foundation has opened the door to the world for peaceful usage of technology that is independent of the limited resources that are available on Earth. This is an understanding of how everything works together in harmony in our universe, and it applies to everything from the smallest to the biggest, from atoms to galaxies. We all are able to collectively work together in pursuit of knowledge, innovation, and solutions for our society. This learning environment is new to the world, where there will be no test to confirm your understanding. The knowledge of everyone will be respected and allowed to flourish in a nurturing environment. Hands-on testing and experimenting will be widely used in conjunction with roundtable discussions to bring all opinions and knowledge forward. Students will be introduced to a change in the ethos of working in collaboration. Students will experience firsthand how we share knowledge in a free and open manner. Graduating students are expected to share the knowledge they gain from the university within their respective communities and nations. All formal teachings, lectures, and presentations will be in the English language, with technology available for immediate translation. Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute will be offering 3-year executive master programs for undergraduate degree students and 1-year executive master programs for graduate degree students in the following fields: space transportation, new plasma technology, health, agriculture, materials, energy. The health section is designed to make students able to live in space without the need to return to Earth. To this end, the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute has found processes for many diseases including ALS, cancer, coma, epilepsy, multiple sclerosis. Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute will offer online teaching courses which will enable anyone, anywhere around the world to enroll and increase their knowledge and understanding. Students will have the opportunity to direct their work towards commercial spin-offs and seek funding through the help of the Keshe Foundation. The access to the new science and new technologies is openly available for peaceful use to the benefit of mankind to make a better world today. Now you can be part of the changing world and the new knowledge. All commercial spin-offs are intended to be open source and patent-free. This is part of the core ethos of the Keshe Foundation and the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute will have its official inauguration on April 21st, 2015, with courses commencing soon after on May 4th, 2015. The students of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute will be the leaders of the future who will make changes in all areas of space technology, science, medicine, agriculture, and energy. Anyone is able to apply, but acceptance is through invitation only. No prerequisites are required. We will be accepting approximately 250 students for the 3-year Executive Master's Program and 120 students for the 1-year Executive Master's Program. We welcome humanity's participation in the knowledge of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. Where does humanity go from here? That is up to you. Apply today.
Okay, that was the promotional video for the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. And now we'll move into the health teaching workshop with Mr. Keshe.
Yes, good afternoon. I think it's the 31st health workshop this afternoon.
Yes, it's the 31st health teaching workshop, that's right.
So, as we've been teaching this morning, are there any questions you want to know, or we try to cover different aspects of the technology in respect to the human body? We have a question, in-house question. It comes from Sandy. And if you want to come and explain what you want to know, then we add to what I have to explain. You ask me a question. You have to put your question in public, otherwise they can't read your brain. You're going to show us, no, sorry. You're going to show us what you're talking about first. There's no use using your hands and arms. There is a pen there. You had a question about the teaching of the past. So you explain what you understood, and then you ask me what you want to know. This is the past.
Okay. On previous health workshops, you worked about the the 5 star formations within the body, and I don't have my notes from back home, so I would very much appreciate if you would go over.
You want me to tell you? You got to tell me what you understood. If you haven't understood, okay. So I can't explain. No? It's very simple. That's the extension. You can go to the board and explain.
Okay, here's what I remember so far.
So if you don't remember correctly, I can give you a correct answer.
Okay.
So try to.
We have the brain has 2 sections, and then I'm going to jump around a little bit.
You have not much to say with a pen. I'll give you a pen.
Okay. 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 We have the 2 half of the brains is part of one. My question is exactly, I'll go on to that. And then we have the lungs, which are 2 parts of another one. We have the kidneys, which are 2 part of another one. And then we have the reproduction center, which is another 2 part of another one. And, oh, I forgot one. The intestines are also 2 parts of another one. Now, the kidney ones, I'll make these the kidney ones. I believe the 3rd one was the bladder. I believe the 3rd one of the lungs was the heart. And of the reproduction centers, I'll call it the G spot. And this is the brain. I think this was the hypothalamus. I'm not sure. And then we have, the intestines, the small intestines and the large intestines. And I believe this was the liver.
This is not mine, to start with.
Okay.
It was done by Dr. Elia. And this is what she understood.
Oh, okay.
No. So you got to ask the one who's committed the crime. Pardon? No, we don't. I don't see her on the line. She cannot explain herself. She's not there. But the way I look at things, this is how Dr. Elia explained it, because then it could make sense in the structure what she understood as a doctor. Yeah. I don't look at it this way. to me, or the way I look, is most of the time you take the brain, the lung, and the heart, and you have, in a way, you have your connection as you want. And more or less because of the strength, you sit in the emotional part of the brain for the control. This is the lungs, this is your heart, and this is your thalamus. This is the understanding of how Dr. Elia could explain her work, that the way I understood at the time she did was these, they make one triangle that stays as a third, what it creates, one triangle, then you have a third, and to that order. But this is, you got to ask her when she appears how she sees that, because she was in detail about going every time with the structure. To me, as this part and this part are two separate parts. This is to do with emotion, and this part is to do with physicality. And in so many ways, they have nothing to do with each other. But in a way, when you put the physical part of the brain on top of the emotional, then you make a connection between the upper part and lower part. This is the way we see or see things and the way it actually operates, because unknown to a lot of you, and in a way I explain, you haven't understood. Even I think yesterday or that sometime before, I explained about the father and the mother and a child and the soul of the child from interaction. In the space when you don't have a mother and a father, in having the structure of the emotional part, understanding the operation, you can, with another soul, or creation of a condition of a soul, lead to creation of another soul, which in place will lead to physicality. This is what I always say, and it's not understood, is that if you have a soul as a partner in understanding of the universal condition, you do not need the physicality of the interaction. And man, in time, in space, will come to understand this very, very, very clearly. I explained this before. Today is a workshop, not a teaching, so we go over it. When you meet another physicality, which, if you think of it, it's whatever you call it, gravitational magnetic field, is off-centered than yours, then this creates a different gravitational field force that physically you cannot interact. Yeah? You fall in love with a fish, you fall in love with a dog, but you can't have a child from a dog because he has no intelligence of understanding to grow. But in a space, if you fall in love with another space entity which is logical, understands you, and you have understanding of a connection of the structure, what I call star, which means it carries a soul, you still can create enough. Then it's the decision of that spring to manifest itself in any state of the creation. Yeah? So, very much, you're American, he's Chinese, the child is born, but he's not an American and he's not Chinese. And then, because he's born in America, he says, I'm American. If he was born in China, he says, I'm Chinese and half American, but I'm Chinese. Because it decides the physicality of the orientation, what he likes. I have this with my youngest son. My youngest son, wherever he goes, says, I'm a Belgian. My mom is Belgian. My dad is Iranian. But I speak good Italian. My dad can't speak. So he chooses. The same thing is in the state of the soul. But it has to match, it has to be understanding, it has to be interaction of the souls. And if that interaction in the state of intelligence is what you understand, you can lead to creation of offsprings, which in time they decide to their own physicality. So all this is totally irrelevant how you look at it. Because maybe in another teacher you'll have your, your sexual organs on the top of your head, because they have to see you, otherwise you're not active. So this is a representation of the physical state of the teaching of a doctor who tries to connect the two sides of the fence, the present knowledge of science of medicine and understanding of the formation of the plasma. That's why I brought you to the board, because then you understand what is the difference. Interesting enough, we will take the technology of health into the next step rapidly. We open an international health center very rapidly, that all the health applications across the world can be seen and operated through a number of countries and nations simultaneously. Which means, this is something we're going to tell you in the coming weeks, maybe bring it forward very rapidly, is that if there are doctors amongst you who wants to start the operation of the health section of the Keshe Foundation, we allow you to enter our email. Yeah. Doctors at the spaceship Institute, .org. We know a number of doctors have been told they might come in, or they already applied or put their name in. We are not, looking to do anything strange. Cancer is our priority. Then Alzheimer's is the other one. We are looking for abnormal conditions like back injuries, because we need to understand this, and in time we are looking for one of the main targets of the foundation in the next 3 months, 6 months. In the health section will be dialysis machine. Dialysis is very important in space technology, and if you understood what we discussed earlier on in the Spanish section, water cleaning and dialysis machine is the same process. So we look at the development of a dialysis machines which can be used without intrusion with the blood. At the moment, you have to put the blood through a circulation to extract whatever you need. The new technology gives us a new insight. If and when, in a coming time, we can determine the gravitational magnetic field of most of the materials within the blood, whatever is not needed or to a level, you can extract it as is in a GANS state across the body as a GANS without entering it. This is a change of game, and it can be developed very rapidly. Go back to the original teaching. We have shown, and now the Coca-Cola bottles have shown, that the materials inside the nano-coated material, even in the state of matter, behave as GANs. They release the energies through intestine as energy, not as a matter state. So it should be understood, the new dialysis machines does not need anything at all. You find out what is extra in your blood, needs to be cleaned up, instead of lying next to a dialysis machine and literally cleaning the blood in the most horrendous way to me, now you put a system against your body and it creates gravitational magnetic field of whatever does not need to be inside it, which is predetermined by the doctors. You transfer a gaseous state of the matter from the body outside and you don't allow it. And the science has shown if we can do such a thing to take the pressure off the liver, of the kidneys will repair themselves and it comes back active. So if we can take the pressure of the dialysis of the body, what happens in most of the cases, which we have looked into, and it's a bit, it's not shocking, but in a way we didn't have the knowledge. As you look at the work of the kidneys do not sit there and decide what minerals they are going or what things they are going to hold or take out. The brain sends specific information to the specific structure within a kidney to create the gravitational magnetic field of, let's say, magnesium for specific amount. After that, it switches off the information. So in your urine, you have a specific amount of magnesium because the brain in its totality knows what's in circulation and it knows what is in storage. Any surplus should be that much according to the amount of the blood going through. This should give so much. When it reaches certain balance charge in plasma, switch off, no more magnesium. Then it comes the copper, or at the same time, every section does its job, and then so much of water is needed to come out. Then it goes to your bladder. In all these status of the condition, everything is in a cancer state, it's in a plasma state. So instead, when this piece goes out of action, you cannot clean up. And then because of that, you clog up this, and you clog up this, and then slowly the kidney fails because it loses the information carrying section. What do? You create the system sitting against the body without any intrusion. Instead of creating the field for magnesium here, you create the field for magnesium here, and plasma state, you extract gravitational magnetic field of it. So the new dialysis machines are of this form. I have worked on this for some time. It's understood by me. I understand what needs to be done. Now we need to bring the doctors. In a new research center, hopefully we announced the opening of, a full floor will be given to specifically health applications. We open the door irrespective of any judgment by any government. I do not accept control by no health authorities because the health authorities themselves are human beings who get sick. It's good as sick as them, and they come through the back door for their families. So when we open the health center section of the Keshe Foundation, it's open to public internationally, irrespective of any nation rules and regulations, because we do not enter the boundary of the body, and we work outside the boundary of the body of the man. So we will, even with the cancer, with the rest, and the rest, we will show a new dimension in the health application, which is for the space. Those who come up, like the police state of Belgium, who started again the war and arrest for the people who supported the Keshe Foundation. I've been told this morning that they have even started a new threat to arrest, confiscate computers and all the people who ever worked with Keshe Foundation again. Will answer you in one sentence. We take steps to cover anybody who supported the foundation for free knowledge of health. You do what you like. The warrant for your arrest is already sitting the officers of the police who are misleading the information. You touch anyone who works in a nation, we open the file of your life through the security services. Because you need more help than they do. They have touched no child and you have. We can prove you're a pedophile, Mr. Delanois. And if you issue one more warrant for anybody, Cash Foundation supporters, we release your lifestyle. Children are very nice to you, sir. Back off or we take steps again. Very simply, we open the doors of the health internationally. So what this means, we allow the presidents, we allow the prime ministers and their families as much as the poor man through the same door for the same cancers and the other diseases. So if any action is to be taken against Cash Foundation for Health for helping humanity, it has been done, and people like the officers and the other ones who are pushing for this thing, since we started the institute and started teaching the health again, we ask for mental status of Mr. Delanois first before he does any more job. Pedophiles have a straightforward fingerprint of conduct. We can show it. So, Mr. Delanois, my answer to you is very clear. We'll meet you on your own grounds, on your own terms, with Mr. Hans Brackenier and the prosecutor will support you. Because create a certain chemicals when you're a criminal. And we know where to look for it. The same as a dialysis machine. If you're a supporter of Cash Foundation, we tell you exactly as you did 2 years ago, and suddenly the policeman found a new job. Since opening the institute, they started a new job in trying to stop the information and teaching to go any further. They have started the game again today. Now we respond back to you. So it goes back to one thing. In the health of the space technology, you look for the interaction of plasmas. One of the problems you have, and I think you've seen it, you are continuously looking for this. But you have to realize sometime is like this too. Because the free plasma has balance in this position. Because this one is a hydrogen, this one is a carbon, this one is nitrogen, and this one is oxygen. Here is carbon, let's say potassium, hydrogen, and oxygen. So, for balance to be kept, you have to start thinking that the position of the free plasma does not end up to be where you have always assumed to be on a straight line. In our reactors of star formation, we enforce the condition to be here. In natural process, if you add copper, this moves a little bit here now, because now is a gravitational magnetic field of a new position. Everything does not stay because in the structure of the physicality, you cannot move your lung somewhere else to accommodate for the new thing. So the free plasma moves, then the structure does. Then you see when you get a cancer, let's say because of additional zinc or aluminium or lead, so now you create a position here which is not known to the others. So this creates a new condition, because up to now, when the amino acid connected to copper, we knew the new field balance is muscle. But when you don't have a muscle here and you don't have or add something else to it, it becomes a lump to the muscle, because now it's a new gravitational field, new position. You call it a cancer position. One of the first things you will learn in the cancer research is we don't go like the doctors do, look at the blood test and then see what we can do. Chemotherapy is good, or we remove cancer. Hopefully next week, Professor Lutzi will be here. He's back on Friday. And then we will show with him to you something very interesting in the systems which are getting developed. Luckily enough, today, just by coincidence, I found another scientist who works not very far from here on the same level as Professor Lutzi. So we can add up to back up electronic development. So what does it do? What are we going to look for? First thing, you have and you come to us with cancer. I'm not concerned about long length wherever they found cancer or they cut out. I look at two things, and this is the job of all the doctors to do. If you are correct in your conduct as a doctor, you just don't go and just try to solve a problem if you don't know what's the cause of it. Nowadays, you think, I got a degree, allows me to leave the others to do the work, and you immediately recommend chemotherapy. What does chemotherapy do? We have explained enough. But what causes the cancer? We look at a number of things before we even start. First, emotional state. Secondly is physical representation of the cancer. Then we see the structure with the matters of the body. And then we look at interaction of the emotion, physicality, and the matters in the body. What does this mean? Emotion is, you have to understand, has the cancer got an emotional source? Then you have to understand what the cancer has been due to. Means, I hate my son, I love everything, there is nothing wrong, I have a fantastic life. You tell the patient, can you please ask your wife to move outside? You hear a different tune. Because as long as the wife sitting in front of you, truth cannot be known, because then tonight there is no dinner at home. This is the truth about people who come to you with cancer. People who come with emotional cancer need time to understand the cause of the emotion. They don't come written in front of their head or on a piece of razor as a blood. This is what I say. In the space technology, emotion counts for 99% of the work. You ask, you don't guess. You let them tell you, I have a most dangerous wife, I don't love my wife, she's giving me blah, 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 and the cause of it is such a beautiful son which doesn't listen to me. All that was rubbish. I'm interested. I've got a prostate cancer, sir. I look at the son. So now you found the source. You know the position, you already know the cancer. The gorgeous sun. But then you go back into understanding in the prostate of the man what is the structure of the material of the prostate, which a foreign body can cause solidification according to the emotion. Then the other part comes in. You establish the physicality. The matter is, you go, as we said before, and look in your test which materials show abnormality, increase or decrease. Then you go through the whole operation of interaction of the matter, physicality, and emotion. You set your system for every structure within physical body. I promise you 100%. There will never be a secondary cancer. Unless they have not told you the whole truth and the system hasn't shown it. Why? Because you sorted out the emotion in respect to the son. But you didn't know something which happens to a lot of men, and that they have a daughter. Because their son is incompetent and incapable of being a boy, they've chosen a daughter to be the son. So the emotion of the prostate cancer in respect to the son now is in respect to the daughter. You didn't ask the right questions. So the cancer comes back because you did not sort out the emotion. The emotion is a daughter, not the son. Because I wanted a son, but my first child became a daughter. I had no time to wait to chance the second child to be a son. I converted my daughter to a son, and I taught him everything as a son. She plays football, she's a tomboy, she does everything else which a woman does not supposed to do. But Papa needed a daughter to be a son. The only thing he could have done was surgical removal. Or surgical adding, I should say. Then the girl grows up. She doesn't like to be a tomboy because the boyfriend likes a soft, gentle girl. She wants to become a woman, doesn't fit into the profile of the father. You got the process. It had nothing to do with the son. Poor chap. You start a process, but then you have to understand which matter is connected with a male emotion and which matter is connected with a female emotion. Then your problem is much bigger, because if you understood the structure of the prostate, when it's with the male emotion, for example, is here, when it's with a female emotion, is here. This is a different tumor. This is done with copper. This is with zinc. Which one do you want to choose? But because it has grown in the emotional field, you make a mistake between your matters. So you have to understand the depth of the knowledge in a space technology health is so deep that it's not easy for anyone without a full medical background in the spectrum of sciences to come in and be able to use. But in time, everybody will learn because it's very easy. We'll put everything in a machine. You press a button and that's it. But as you're getting trained to be the space scientist, you have to understand everything in totality. Do you know why? Because sometimes they call it Sod's law in English. The damn machine doesn't work. So you have to find it yourself. When you know how to walk, jumping and running and the rest, it's easy. This is what I said this morning. We teach you the fundamental structure, not the background structure. Any judge who wants to accuse me of using medical the wrong way has to be a judge fully trained in medicine before he can stand in front of me. Very easy, because any judge can accept any bullshit which they put in front of him. If they put me on a judgment of 20, 30 doctors, physicians, they judge, and then I can show them how it works, then they can pass a judgment. Now the judge who's a pedophile himself sits in the court of judgment. So you have to understand the depth of the knowledge. The depth of knowledge we have is so accurate, so detailed, even the present doctors have fear of understanding because it shows the amount of knowledge they don't have. Scientists who are multifaceted in different aspects of their medicine will jump on this because they see a solution for humanity. And this is the way you will handle health application in space. You can take aspirin once, you can take aspirin twice, but you don't solve the problem which is sitting in your brain and is a tumor. You have to understand how the emotion of the tumor has come, what has caused the tumor. Is the tumor emotionally based or is it physically based? Because as we said, physical cancer happens. High radiation, high radio frequencies create brain hemorrhage. A lot of telephone companies are trying to suppress the knowledge that the brain cancers has got nothing to do with their telephone system. But I can show you in 1 second everything to do with mobile telephones. Because what happens in your brain, you create a magnetic field which the body of the man inside the brain is in a Ganser state, and then you continuously bombard it with radio or microwave. What do? You expand the magnetical and you reduce the gravitational. So you create a condition of the gap, and the next element has gravitational and a magnetical. It becomes a center for attraction and adding of cells together. You call it a tumor. Mobile phones, rapid condition of the emotion of the mobile phone with a physicality leads to brain tumor, without a doubt. Most of the people who have brain tumor on the sides of their ears, in the place of position, we cannot find cancer anywhere else, is most of it is when they listen to the telephone and they get emotional, they create a certain gravitational magnetic field with the interaction of the telephone leads to this change. It can be clearly defined. I've done enough work to stand and show it, and you can even show it on the live MRI. While you're watching it, I'll give you bad news, and I'll show you where it hits. Where do we get the bad news from? On the phone. And if our state of mind is not correct, we release certain emotion, the emotional part, which is very near to the ear and has been built for it from the beginning, gets hit, has to digest, has to receive the information, change of characteristics, change of material, you have a tumor. So we have two choices. Don't send the bad news down the phone, or remove the phone from proximity of the ear. If you see most of you, when I speak on the phone, I do not care who's listening to my conversation. 99.9% of the time, I open phone because I have spread the energy in different ways. If you have a secret lover, you don't give the telephone number to. You meet it in person. Because that secret lover, through emotion, can give you cancer. Because half of the time you're worried if the other one won't find out. So you see me all the time, most of the time, I have no hesitation. I speak on the open phone. Not because I don't care anyway, but I know this problem. So you have to understand certain cancers have nothing to do with emotion. They are created out of condition, as we said. Fukushima is one of them. If you have abusive relationship, I can show you the places the woman will have a cancer which is abnormal, but it's become normal. You have abusive relationship between men, I show you where you get your cancers from. You have abusive relationship in accepting what you cannot let go. I give you 100% guarantee you have cancer of intestine, the large intestine. Sometimes. So in the structure of the space technology, plasma technology, we look for total solution, not the chemotherapy that we smash it to see what happens. You've got to ask pharmaceuticals, and the others have to ask, you have enough knowledge. You know prostate cancer has to do mainly with the emotion of the father. What have we done to it? What have we done for it? Nothing. Is not our job. So why do you promote the product? There is enough scientific data to confirm which cancer related to what. Why don't the pharmaceuticals use it unless it's not to their benefit to put anything in it? And this is the problem. This is where, in the structure of what we do, does not mean we're going to get it right the first time, but by the time the systems are evaluated and built, we will get it right 100%. Because we go both for physicality and emotion. We try to find out what material changed the physical state of the father, and in turn, what the emotion has used as a matter to bring the cancer. Because you cannot do one without the other. The technology which is in hand and is getting evaluated and developed, and the people who say that they have found 100% cure for every disease, I tell you one thing, come back in 6 months, in 12 months, and see if the guy's got another disease. Because all you have done with your systems, you have passed the buck to another organ. Because you have never, any research you look, ever considered the emotional behavior and its effect on a cancer and finding a solution on both ways. Homotherapy, what do you call it? Homeopathy tries to find a solution, but cannot, because it's void of the emotional access to the physicality. It's a big gap in it, but they try to claim they can do it, but up to now, you ask them how many you've done. If it would have been a solution, everybody would use homeopathy by now. The reality is we have to consider man as a totality of both emotion and physicality. And if we don't do, we'll have these problems. And in a space, this is a huge problem, because here in a space, emotion plays a lot of games. Missing mother, missing father, missing the loved ones, missing the smell of the rivers and the valleys, missing the food, missing the pizza, whatever it is. Continuously, emotion will play a part, and in turn will reduce the life of physicality. And this you cannot do. Then you have to find out the new diseases which come from emotion. This is how people react. This is how a lot of people who have attachment through emotion to physicality will hide or try to cover the act of emotion through the lack of weakness of physicality. We talked about Hitler this morning. Homosexual, for it emotionally not to show the weakness, he got rid of all his lovers. Mr. Hans Brackenier, Chief of Police of Kortrijk, Peter Fine has to follow the guy out because he's exposed him. But he uses the cover of the police because he has a position in there. He's given a position to cover the other pedophiles, which we have explained. I go back over this because this information just came to me during the lunchtime. That's how they started again. So we open the books. I ask for the blood of Mr. Delanois before anything is done. And secondly, I inform you, Mr. Delanois, I know you're listening, Chief Prosecutor of Italy has given us a full protection. You cannot and will not move us from Italy as long as the Vatican and Chief of Police and Chief Prosecutor of Italy stands by us. So you've got a lot of peddling to do. And it's not talk, we have it in writing. So please ask your queen to come to where we are. They're very well welcome. Will be received by the people they love to have them. In the previous workshops, we discussed GANs made from nano-coated iron. And what is SO? So is creating GANs through different materials depends on their place in the chemical table. Is it clear which material and GANs is responsible for which body part? What materials are used to create GANs? i.e., for example, to repair bones? Yes, they do. Very much do. you have to go back in part of our teaching that the state of formation of a gans, it depends on the blood and your neural system, information which comes in, and the lymph. And the emotion which comes through it dictates what it needs to be at a given point. Solidification of a matter to a gans through information, we show this very soon because we have enough material to show this. Where, for example, we create a motion, we create a current, give a condition for it to be, and by introduction in the environment certain kind of energy, we will create material in that area. Marco has done a piece of it this week, past 2 weeks, and he hasn't noticed it. In making GANs, he created the information, and through a specific way which he came up with it, nobody has ever done it before, he created this. You know what you've done. You understood. Yeah? So what happened in his decision, he had the material and he went to find a new way. And what he did, for whatever reason, his logic, he just added the information as an energy, but he put a limitation on the energy. And without anything else, he created the material he wanted to create. Do you understand? Because he created the flow through a current, and he created the lymph through the liquid of the material. Only thing he needed to put was the other side of information as a motion, as energy. So you do not need connection to create the matter. Correct? And you have corrected a lot of it. Quite a bit. So what we tell you here, Marco can show it next week when I'm not here. At least he has something to show. Good? You said, tell me what? Now you know what. Huh? So I don't talk about it. Marco will show it to you how your body leads to creation of what it needs to be done, because it's dictated to him by another piece which you put in there, and he called it, it might be plating. I said, no, it's not, because you haven't understood. He says, I am based He says, I am based in Italy. How much previous medical training are is that IT? I'm based in IT. How much previous medical training is required for this? None. If you understand the working of computers, I presume IT, that's what it means. It doesn't mean Italy. You have understood half of the working of the body of the man better than the doctors. It's just how you want to apply it, to understand it, and how the information is carried. Blood carries information, lymph is carrying information, the neural system is carrying information. So how you mix a combination of different information is different fields which the totality of interaction leads to a plasma of entity. Then you don't need much teaching. The only thing you have to remember in the body of man, whatever you do, whatever you connect, you always have to remember this is a common ground connection line. If you add a Cu, and then you add a zinc, and then you add maybe two Cus, one of them in UC, which means reverse rotation of the copper, you create, and then you add the zinc, and then you add maybe two Cus, one of them in UC, which means reverse rotation of the copper, you create. Hello, Vince. And then you add the zinc, and then you add maybe two Cus, one of them on a reverse loop, which means reverse rotation of
Some
the copper.
technical difficulty here.
You create. Hello, Vince. And then you add.
Okay.
Are we supposed to do the Irish water dance till you get it right? One of them on a reverse
I
loop.
think the
Reverse.
it seems like the live stream's working there now. Vince.
Here. Create. Hello, Vince. I think somebody has opened a mirror line. Was it deliberate or is it accidental?
I think it was accidental. I think somebody ran over the pedestal when they were trying to park something. So we should be back up on live stream. I see that it's streaming. I see your camera. But let me just try unmuting Rick. Rick, can you try just make sure that your live stream is muted before I unmute you, please? Okay, Rick, you're unmuted. Are you okay?
Got it.
You want to stop the teaching? It's 4:30.
I think I'm okay here. I'm going to mute, and I think everything's okay. You can continue on. The live stream should be up and working, so you can continue doing what you're doing, and I can see the camera, no problem.
You're hoping to be connected by tomorrow?
Oh, I'm hoping so.
Okay, no problem.
Okay,
Be
so
careful, there's no something else too.
I'm going to mute here. So, okay, thanks for your patience, everybody, on live stream.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vince.
Thank you very much. So you see, if you ask a wrong question and I answer it the correct way, I have to walk home. But the problem is, I'm not a human, as they say, and there is a lot of problems. There are a lot of spare ribs on the way. I hope I got the message home. They say man can walk 6 kilometers a day, an hour maximum, good, and about 20 kilometers a day if you walk very fast, a normal man. I live about 32 kilometers away, so it means I have to find somewhere home tonight. It means there is a need for a spare ribs. There are very nice Italian restaurants on the way. Okay. Are there any other questions? Or we stop and we call it a day? It says, is the camera on? Yes? Ah, a very interesting question. It says, how this guy changed his thingy, huh? His question. It says, how you take care of patients' emotions to cure cancer. Ooh, depends how open they are in explaining their emotion.
got a question in the Facebook, Mr. Kesh, if you want
Yes.
to take. It's from Trevor. He says, my question is, what is the process to reverse the condition of lung cancer, specifically when the tumor is wrapped around the pulmonary artery? I want to know what can be done to help people who are suffering severely from cancer. Do we feed them GANs, energized water? Can the star formation help? Or is it necessary to use a specific health reactor setup?
We are setting up the technology. We have invited others to participate in it with us. And we have already received support and collaboration through a government. So we have to explore it, and then we show the use of the technology and the systems. GANs will not help if you do not know how to use it, and you have to understand, just because we have shown you a tool, you can take it and run with it. You have to understand the process, what it does, how it does it, how it interacts, why the cancer in the lung is there to start with, what has caused it, is it malignant or not malignant, and then you have to understand you have enough time to reverse and reach the right position in the lung. The cancer, especially lung cancer, you have to see the position of the cancer, if it's connected to the or near the whatever position, is what's the work and what is the information the body gives you in respect to the position of. This is what I explained. What's that? If it's on the top or it's on the bottom. Why prostate problem is not in certain cultures. Why lung cancer is not in certain cultures. Sorry, I have a very bad cold, but it comes in bad. So, just because you know the cancers and the CO2s, it doesn't mean that you can help the people. We are putting the structure in organization of the Keshe Foundation Health to be able to deliver this. And now we are finding more scientists who are prepared and developing the science and the technology. And in time, we add it to see the reflections of that outside the body. So I can't tell you how you can do it unless we put it on the machine. Scientifically, we can diagnose in the presence of doctors. Then we go into the next step of development, testing, and evaluating. At this moment, I cannot tell you anyway, because then they tell me I interfere with something else, but this is something I know how to do, and it's not a very easy way to do it. Can we use the same process to the other sicknesses? Sometimes, yes. Homeopathic claims they cure cancer with remedies which are energy vibration. How do you view the homeopathic philosophy? Very easy. Time to promote. This is a promotion time. This is very quickly. You clean the board, and then you clean it right. Please go to Foundation website and go to says download. And then you can read the paper called The Truth About Homeopathy. Sorry about that. Minimum €5. If you're not stingy, you can donate €50. So, truth about homeopathy. Then you know what I think about homeopathy. Yes. Sorry about that. I've done this a long time ago, so it's easy. This was written last May. You want me to come very close? I hope your husband doesn't mind.
If you work on one person's emotional problem that's in a union with someone else, couldn't you disrupt cause more emotional problem in their significant other will say, and therefore you're dealing with two problems and not really just one?
Exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about, but sometimes it allows someone to assess their emotion in respect to the situation as they did not think about it before. I had one extremely beautiful woman and one beautiful woman sitting in front of me, and then this was going on. One of them was sick, and she was there for me, but the other one came as well. But I met these women sometimes ago before, and in the back of my head, I knew there was a personal, private relationship on the lesbian level. But they were there in front of me for me not to understand the two friends sitting in front of me. I remember it very well because I asked a very simple question. I said to them, do you have a mutual relationship? The thinner one, extremely beautiful, she said, yes, but I do all the work at home and I make all the decisions. And the woman which was more structured, you expect her to be the male part of the relationship. She said, she likes to do these things, I let her to do. I said, I have a problem. Can you explain to me why you're attracted to her? Something in that line. She said, I have to tell you, they were both, before the new relationship, married about 20 years with a man. They didn't see much in the man, so they decided now they try to have a different relationship. There is nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong with any kind of relation called lesbian, homosexuality. It's all part of the state of mind. What you're happy with counts. Then what the very well woman said in response to my question, she said, I see like an image of a man in her. And she said, what? She said, I see like, the soul of a man in her. That's why I'm attracted to her. I said to her, why did you divorce the first husband then, if you wanted to be with a man? And then the thin one, she said, we have to think about this relationship because I wanted to be in love with a woman. You understand? I tried to solve a problem and I never seen them again. I think somewhere in the middle of the file, they found out who's who and what they wanted to do with their lives. We've had a number of cases where people become aware of their emotion. You see this, I was explaining this to a friend very recently. There is a disease called FMS, fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is a psychosomatic disease. It's a psychosomatic problem. And doctors cannot find any solution for it. And in the Keshe Foundation, if you're truthful with your condition, 90% you'll find a solution and you walk away from it. In this relationship with this disease, you find abuse between the age of 0 or before birth, 12 to 14, depending on a boy or a girl, to the point of puberty. Sexual abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse. And what happens is that women usually are the victims of this disease majority of the time, unless you're an abusive woman, you abuse a man, or an abusive mother who abuses a son. Then, when the woman grows up, has children, usually, then brings up the children with the love of a mother, then at the age of 30, 35, having children, ask herself one question. Why didn't I do what they abused me to my own children? What's wrong with me? What was wrong with me? You start asking questions. But you already bear the scars of abuse in subconsciousness. By the age of now, for the first time, I've seen the youngest person with fibromyalgia around the age of 22, 24. Never seen this, but now I understand it's going to go very, very far forward to 18 and below now. So what happened? They married, and they married a man in the condition of accepting the abuse. So the frame of mind is an abusive mind which has been abused. Then they go through a process of self-searching, and then they say, why this didn't happen to me? Why didn't do the same thing they've done to me as a child? So something wrong with me. Then a lot of energy, like a cancer, is used to justify for the pains which now they show themselves in physicality in the body of the man. Pain. If you go to a fibromyalgia test, 18 pain points is the maximum. But you have 11 out of 18, you have fibromyalgia. But they have no cure for it because the world of science has not understood fibromyalgia is psychosomatic. So all the abuses in that time, because I always say, if you get cut by somebody, you see the weakness. But when you see the healing process, it gives you subconsciously, I'm stronger than the pain. I succeeded. But with the fibromyalgia, the knives has cut into the emotion of the physicality, but there is no bleeding. So now, every cut uses 2 or 3 days to keep the wound, which you cannot see, under control. So when you touch a person with a fibromyalgia, if you have a cut, you touch it, say, oh, it's cut. But now, if you touch a person with a fibromyalgia, they hurt, but you see nothing. So, in fact, the wound is sitting under the skin in the emotion. So now, child been abused for a long time. Let's say 200 wounds at 2 calories or 3 calories. That's 400 to 600 calories a day. Body is using as energy just to keep the pain under control. But when we are young, we don't feel it because we eat, we are active. When you go 30, 35, the body goes down. Now, every calorie counts. As the famous actor said, after the age of 40, everything goes southpole. So now every calorie counts. You need 1,600 calories a day. 600 has gone for information carrying blocking. You're left with 1,000 calories. is not enough to do the daily job. You're tired, you're exhausted, you cannot concentrate. Break up of marriage because you're not the man, the woman you used to be. Expectation cannot be met. You're always exhausted. You come to us in Cash Foundation, and the minute I say fibromyalgia, I know what to look for and how to get people to tell me where the abuse is. So now I give you a cup, which at this moment I make a plasma and hold it with magnet, and Mr. Delano has got it open and says it's magnets, he's a crook, but he's a crook because he never understands the science, he will go to school. And then in this, I set the condition of emotion of the physicality. You drink, you come to understand the emotion has to be considered. And one thing you always tell to a person with the FMS, fibromyalgia, is that the condition happened to you before age of puberty where you accepted everything, and now you have to understand it wasn't your fault. Because you accepted the condition. The mother had a rough time, you got beaten up for it. The mother couldn't do her job, you got beaten up for her not to show her own weakness. So you became a, what I call, kicking cushion. So now that I have managed to take one at a time the emotions that they could analyze, this is not their problem, I put back in the 400 calories. Now you have the 1600 calories to work. Now you handle the emotion, you heal the wounds. So you say, now the system works. I can do more, I can do things I couldn't do before. I have done nothing. I allowed you to analyze in your subconscious emotion which you locked in and showed as physicality. Now you behave totally different because now you are in the working of this age. But you married a man with the emotion of fibromyalgia, of abuse. Then you see, I married a man who was abusive as the people abused me, for me to confirm that I was right and they were wrong, and you lost the bet because you walked in the same trap as the abuse. Because people who get abused, they don't go to cure themselves. They walk from one abusive relationship into another abusive relationship because this is a casino. I lost the last bet, I bet this time I can win. But you already entered in a relationship which the man has sent the victims, the blood is already shed. So you go from one abusive relationship into another abusive relationship. So now you have married into abusive relationship. And then when you get to this point, where you can see clearly, you say to husband, do you know something? Take a walk. I've seen this a number of times. I'm not taking the abuse anymore. I stand my ground. I'm not betting this time on another one, because when you have 1,000 calories, you bend forward, you're weak, you walk like this, and it's like a lion looking at a herd of animals. He doesn't go for the strongest, he goes for the weakest because it's not the food. So when you became the victim, you were already hunted by the hunter. When you are correct, you walk different, you attract different people, you interact with different environments, emotionally you respond different. This is very interesting. Goes back to what I started. Pedophiles rely on this, that a child says it was my mistake, because they convinced the child it was his mistake that they raped it, they abused it. And then a pedophile abusing a child, through the same abuse, he becomes a pedophile. So the boss finds another boss, finds another boss. So pedophilia continues. This is relying, confirming to the child, it's your fault I've hit you, it's your fault that I shot at you, it's your fault that I abuse you physically or sexually. I always say to my son, do you want to feel a hit? You tell me when you're ready, I'm going to give it to you, and then you feel it. You feel it. But I don't do it as a threat. I said, you make a decision because I never touch you. Then when you got touched, you know what was the reason for it. And this is one of the problems with my children. They've never been touched. But they know if they get touched, they have done that. And that day hasn't come yet in 30, 40 years of parenthood. But this is what it sits. This is how you walk into one abuse relationship, because you walk in, I am ready to be hunted. Who likes to take me? If you are physically abused, you stand different. When you're sexually abused, you stand different. When you're psychologically abused, you stand different too. You look different. If you are an expert in these things, the way I have made knowledge, gathered knowledge over years, then with one look, I can say how you've been abused. But that's my secret. You walk in, you never know. I walked in a situation, woman will not come out of the house. I explained this before, but for those who are new into the teaching, maybe you hear it for the first time. I was asked by a doctor, a medical woman, to meet one of her patients at home because she cannot come out. 24 operations on the neck and 12 operations on the hand and arm. At the age of around about 45. I walked into the house. I don't usually go to people's home, but because they're French, she asked me to look, I looked. I walked through the steps. She opened the door. Hello? Up the stairs, 3 or 4 steps. She stood in front of me as talking to me. And I asked one question. Have you been sexually abused? And the woman just went down. Wow. Straight. You see people in the movies, they fall? She said, no one has ever asked me this question with one hello. I said, for me, I didn't need to know because your doctor, the lady, has told me you had 24 operations, arm and leg, and you don't come out of the house. With 3 children, all handicapped. The question wasn't to be answered any further. I didn't need to do anything else. At age of 9, she was sold by the mother to the grandfather as a death payment. This is in 2010, 2015, 2014. We are talking present time, not in last centuries. The mother sold the girl as a death payment to the grandfather. At the age of 11, 3 abortions from the grandfather. This is the state of Belgium. And the grandfather walks free. When she gives birth, she wants nothing to do with the child because she has entered an abusive relationship. 24 leg operation, for what reason? To her is the leg which has let her down that the grandfather could penetrate and pregnant her. So she wants to get rid of it. Doesn't matter whatever you do, there is something wrong with this leg. You've got to get rid of it. Forever doctors do operation. The right hand operation, because the grandfather forced masturbation. I want nothing to do with this hand. I want to get rid of it. The state of Belgium situation is so bad that God knows why they've been put in a corner of the continent. And now they are trying to cover it by arresting us, who exposes their operation. The person is on our files. We open the file. Why the police allows a grandfather to rape a child of 9 and 11? Unless the police is part of the structure. Good morning, Mr. Delanois. I open your file beyond imagination. This is, we release the name of the patient, even we have to cross confidentiality, because if they take us to court, we open the cases. Belgians would not touch us because they know what I can open. Woman, age of 45, with a sister, been taken from shop to shop, pub to pub, at age of 8, with the father standing and watching, been raped by 4 men at a time for him to get paid. The woman is still alive. She's written her life story and we read it. And funny enough, most of the customers are priests. She's written her life story. We have read it. She was at the opening presentation of the Cash Foundation, if you were there, in Ninove, Belgium. You most probably have met her without knowing. So now, psychological pressure leads to physical amputation of leg and arms. When I explained to her, I understand, 3 months later, she started recovering. But it's too far, too many operations, and I cannot help 3 handicapped children. No, they're in their 20s and 25s because they come out of the abusive rapes. You got a problem with the mother, there's a cancer patient with the breast. You live abusive life with a man, cancer on the right. You do not want to be touched by a man, womb cancer. One of the healthiest, richest men in the world is happy because every day he eats the same food, the same place, same time, burn the steak without fail. And he's been doing it for decades. You all know him, the best friend of Bill Gates, the guy who made Coca-Cola to be Coca-Cola. But he has a pattern in his life, perfect pattern. Makes him work, think successfully to be. You give the same burned steak cooked to burnt every day to a child, you will end up with a stomach cancer. Depends what we accept in receiving according to what pleases us psychologically. I can give you numbers and numbers of cases of child abuse in the state of Belgium because we kept all the records and they are still alive. One of the reasons the police trying to silence us because we have opened the Pandora box of pedophiles headed by the ex-king of Belgium and down all the police forces. I bring cases and cases in front of the judge and the judge has to say who, and if it's not my right as a man who understands to help the people who are in that condition. If I'm denied to help, then it means the guy is a pedophile himself sitting in the seat of judge. We didn't go for these cases. These cases came to us. So you have to understand Is a child of 9 years old allowed to be raped, multiple raped, going to hospital, getting pregnant, abortion at age 10 and 11, and police does nothing about it? In which state? A state of animals or a state of Belgium? I release the name, the addresses, and the telephone numbers. You go and see them. And if you are wrong, I stand the court, no problem. The same is with cancers in Belgium. The same is with illnesses which are psychologically enforced by the condition of the environment on the people in Belgium. If you can allow children at the age of 8 to be taken for prostitution by the father and the priest are participants in it, so who is the police? And what do we get from out of these children? Children who themselves will bring up abusive children, and the society goes down the chute. This woman lives in St. Nicholas, and this woman lives in Bruges. And the state of police does nothing for it. But the people like us who go to help, they become criminals because we open the hand of the police. Mr. Delano, I move beyond your imagination. You tried to kill me twice, this time you kill yourself. Because you're a pedophile and you're covering the cases. How the headphone affects the human brain. I don't know. I've looked at this in a very deep cases. There is a point of physicality and a point of connection. This is something which I can't give you an answer because I don't know the answer, but to me, it makes sense in different ways. If you carry a mobile phone, and this is your 2 ears, this is your 2 ears, you have a very nice alien with a good smile. So, when you put the phone here, you directly interact with the brain cells. When I put the phone here, to my knowledge, which I think is the best way, I spread the fields, so I absorb it with most of the brain. But when you connect it, are we here or are we there? To me, it looks like we are there. Because all we've done, here I spread the energy, now you direct it in a different way, but you spread it between two sides of the brain. It's a catch-22. Is it better or is it worse? But at the end, it's physicality. To me, from studying a number of, because you know one of the brain tumor cancers we are handling, which is very successful, he'll be here, the son will be here very soon. He says he's becoming a doctor, he'll give a lecture about his father, chemotherapy, and a brain tumor, which we know 90% the cause was a mobile phone, is that if you can take the emotion when you're talking on the phone out of your communication, there should not be that many tumors. Because iPhone is sold in millions. Not all of us have cancer. Other mobile phones are sold in millions. How come we all don't get a cancer? I think what we have to do, a lot of mobile companies have to do, is to go and look at the psychology of the use of the cancer. of the mobile phone. It's a data we don't have. How these people emotionally react to information, and then ask them in a certain period before the cancer appears if they received a bad emotional or a good emotional news which they could not digest. And then most probably some of the truth sits somewhere around there. And then we have to develop maybe systems which obstructs the emotion from being carried through the information, which is not impossible. Because one of the questions I asked this gentleman with a brain tumor, with a thing, he's a dentist, he's a doctor himself. So we could analyze it to detail with him. He's a very scientific, basic, logical man. The son is becoming a doctor. And we have left the operation in the hand of other doctors to monitor. We are very happy with the results after 2 years. We don't see any sign of cancer anymore, which they were expecting him to die about a year ago. So it's still a good sign. And when you see it, I show the blood results to doctors to have a look at, to tell me what's the disease, and they can't say any disease because it doesn't show there is no sign of cancer. But when you speak to him, it was very clear. He, as a dentist, he used to drill and have a phone in one place and getting angry and emotional, so he has literally rubbed it in. He says he thinks it's correct. But it needs a lot of research. And if you have a headphone, you do the same thing. But at least you spread the energy. You have to understand the information released and absorbed by the brain is magnetical, gravitational, or only magnetical. It's not a ray. It cannot be a ray. Because ray cannot initiate emotion. When we speak, we don't speak a sound, magnetic field. We speak an emotion. I give you the energy, you give me response back. This is a mistake of a lot of our work in the science. Just because we speak and we don't take nothing from it, we send and we receive. How much we gave and what we receive is a plasmatic condition. And if that plasma is fitting to the structure of our body. And don't forget, this little chap, the mouth, is not very far from the brain. And this little chap is not very far from the brain emotional part either. This talks to emotion, this listens to the emotion. And somewhere they meet. If you are crazy, you keep on talking to a wall. But if you're a human being, you talk to the wall for you to hear something back that you can show a reaction. So it's a plasmatic condition. It depends how much of it we want to accept, how much of it we want to reject, and what we reject can stay as residual, become matter state, we call it a cancer. I don't know, this is debatable. But at least you spread the energy. It's not all the same. Yes, the hand up and down, the question asked and answered, and sometimes thought, maybe it's a silly question to ask.
Mr. Cash?
Yes?
The kids.
Yes?
Yes.
The kids are waiting.
Yes.
Kids are waiting. Kids in the hall.
Okay. Sorry about the kids. Rick, Wiz, we could include these questions on the kids' workshop, mobile phone and headphone. And the constant use affect the brain. The children nowadays don't have any brain. How do you expect it to affect them? Well, at least that's what I say to my child. Then he says I'm very clever. Okay. Do you want to stop?
Okay. Yes, that's
Yes, okay.
Probably good for now. We'll move on to the kids' workshop. Sure.
Yeah, we have to evacuate at 6 o'clock. So,
right. So let's.
thank you very much for today's workshop. And
Thank you, Mr. Kesh.
Thank you very much indeed.
That was the 31st health teaching workshop, and on Tuesday, May 19th. And thank you, everybody, for attending.